A lot of people think there are only two options to starting a business, either starting from scratch or buying a franchise. There's actually a third path, and that is buying an existing independent business. It sounds like a simple shortcut: skip the building phase, buy something that already works. Let me show you what that path actually involves. It's going to take just a couple minutes here, but it's a really critical distinction because it's one of those layers in the middle where there's a lot of people competing for your attention, and they want to give you this as an option. So looking at this as an option as well as franchising and understanding the variance between the two is a critical thing to making the right decision. And like we've done in the previous videos, we're going to go to our dear trusty friend Google and take a look at some of what it has to say. So I searched a difference between buying a franchise and buying an existing business, and this gets right to the point. With a franchise, you're licensing a system and a brand. You'll keep paying royalties for as long as you operate. With an existing business, you're buying something outright. Once you've paid, it's yours. No ongoing fees to a franchisor, no brand restrictions. The other big difference is what you're actually buying. A franchise sells you a system, and a lot of times when it's the right system, it is a proven system and a set of proven projections that you can see over multiple units and get a lot of clarity over. This is what I can kind of expect. It can't be guaranteed because you're still the manager of that business, but it's kind of what you can expect based on historical data, which you don't fully have, and certainly not with the market variance and if you add additional locations to that existing business, okay? With an existing business, they sell you real historical numbers. You can see exactly what that specific business has made month over month for years. That sounds like certainty, but it only tells you what happened under the old owner. It doesn't tell you what happens once the owner walks out the door and you're the one running it. And that's a really critical thing that a lot of people do not think about. Looking at the historical numbers of a business, you would think when you plug into that business, certainly that is going to be what you can expect in the future or something to that effect because you're literally buying the business. But the reality is that's how it ran under the old owner. Now, maybe you are an infinitely better operator. Maybe you're somebody who understands things better than the owner could have ever imagined, and you're going to be able to enhance on that. That is a possibility. It's also a possibility that that doesn't happen and that there's market changes or that there's a challenge with you and the staff or whatever else. You go through a lot of due diligence, but there are those inherent things that can be challenging. With a franchise system, where it's very different is you have multiple operators running in a vast system, and you can say, hey, these are different people with different backgrounds, with different skill sets, but across the board, this is what we can look at as the data. So the system overall is a little bit more validated than buying an existing business. And that's not something a business broker is going to want you to know necessarily, but it is certainly a true thing. And that is not a knock on business brokers. I have some dear friends who are fantastic business brokers, very, very brilliant human beings who I know live with integrity. But in the reality of things, if you're looking at this, a lot of times that doesn't make sense. The other thing is it's a lot more entrepreneurial when you step into just buying an existing business because there's a lot more things you have to think about, especially if you're somebody who is a growth-minded person who wants to scale. That is a little bit easier when you have a tried and true proven franchise system and you can just rinse and repeat with the playbook. I don't want to push you one way or another. Obviously, there's a little bit of a bias on the franchising side, and it's fair for me to say that. It would be a lie if I didn't. But at the same time, analyzing this, these are things that you can look at and that you would be able to see through your own research as well, which is why we're going to Google and which is why I'm looking at this direction. Okay, so the next thing is, let's just type in, because this is a very good segue here, how to value a small business for purchase. And this is actually a really complicated one in a lot of ways. A lot of people don't know how to evaluate it. They don't know how to value it. They don't know how to really put a price on a small business for a purchase. And there's a lot of business brokers that are going to have perspective on this. And this is why people will work with them. You know, sometimes they try to go their own route. There's all kinds of ways that you can go about this. But looking at this topic is really critical, right? So obviously I searched how to value a small business for purchase. And the short answer is it usually comes down to a multiple of the business's earnings. Buyers look at what the business actually generates in profit and price the purchase around that number. What's powerful about this is you're not buying a projection. You're buying a track record. You can see exactly how the business performed through good months and slow months. The flip side is you inherit everything that comes with that business too. The reputation, the existing staff, whatever systems are already in place, good or bad. And once you sign, there's no franchisor showing up to help you fix what isn't working. You're on your own. You bought this and you're the one that has to deal with it. So any of these processes, you don't have a playbook to leverage. You don't have somebody else's mistakes to lean on necessarily, because there's going to be new mistakes just by having a new owner enter into that business and try to operate that business. Okay. It just is inherently true. Even with an existing staff, no matter how well you get to know them, and even if the old owner stays for a while, there's still changes because you're a different human being at the end of the day. And granted, there are very, very valuable things with purchasing an existing business. I would never take anything away from that. There's also many things to consider in the process. Now, the next thing that we move into, and this is going to be a very truncated version because it's a much more vast conversation, but I'm going to enter this in, and it's a really good thing, and it's about due diligence. So due diligence checklist for buying a small business. And I'm crushing it with the spelling today. But that's okay. We're doing this live. I told you it was going to be honest. It's going to be honest. We're telling the truth here. All right. So I searched due diligence checklist for buying a small business. And this is where buying independently asks more of you. You're reviewing financials yourself or with your accountant. You're figuring out why the current owner is selling. You're assessing whether the customers are loyal to the business or loyal to the person leaving. None of that is bad. It just means that the responsibility sits entirely with you. So without a brand system standing behind you, it just sits on you, right? This is honestly where a lot of independent purchases run into trouble. The due diligence looks thorough on paper, but you don't fully know what you actually bought until you're a few months in and the previous owner is gone. Even if they are staying for a little bit of time and then they're exiting, you still don't really know until they're gone and you're just handling everything. And that is a risk. And that's exactly the gap a franchise system is built to close. You're not guessing what you're getting because thousands of other locations have already proven what the model does. And granted, not every franchise has thousands of locations, right? Some can have a few locations, but even if it's a few locations with different operators, or even if they're corporate owned stores, you still know how those stores are operating in different markets and different areas with different staffs and makeups, whether it's corporate owned, and especially if it's franchisee owned, you still see that kind of stuff. What I would say is if you are ever thinking about going the route of buying a business, definitely don't just say, hey, you know what? I'm going to look up a couple things, say this is a cool business, roll the dice, and I'm going to try to make it happen. Do your research. Before you spend a penny on anything, do your research. Take your time. That's not going to be popular with people that want to close a deal and get things moving forward, but do your research. Understand what things like EBITDA means. Understand the profit and loss statement. Understand the mechanics of the departments of a business, what it looks like to do staffing for that business, how that business operates in the community, what their reviews are like, what their systems and their processes are like. Honestly, that's one of the biggest things. You want to look at the financials, absolutely, but look at what their systems and their processes are like. If they're handing you something that looks decent as far as the financials, but you have to basically figure out all the systems and processes, as somebody who has built multiple businesses, I can tell you that that is a nightmare. It's a nightmare that is so much bigger than you would ever imagine. And even if you don't want to do it, it can be very costly for you to bring somebody else in to do it, either in the form of you giving away equity because that's a huge amount of work, or giving away money because it's a service somebody is giving back to you. So it's really critical to understand this stuff. And we definitely don't have enough time to go into the depths that we need on this topic, but there's just a lot to consider when you're going the route of buying a business. And especially if you're in the position of being somebody who maybe is in corporate America and finally saying, you know, I want to step away from it, and I want to step into something that's my own. The franchising route, when you find the right franchise and you look at their numbers, you can see all that stuff so much more clearly because of the FDD. The franchise disclosure document is a mandated document that you have to give to buyers when they are looking to purchase a franchise. Now, there are a lot of nuances to that, and getting the right consultant to walk you through those things is really important, which is one of the things that we do here at Unitlock Franchising. We walk you through that so you understand, number one, what it means, And number two, what to look for and what's missing. But at the end of the day, you at least have a baseline thing that you're working from. And it's something that's governed by the Federal Trade Commission. So it's not just some person saying, hey, I want to sell a business and here's what my financials look like. There's a lot that goes into that kind of thing. This is more regulated, more tried and true. When you find the right franchise, especially if you've been in corporate America or if you haven't been an entrepreneur of multiple businesses, it certainly can be easily just as profitable, even with the royalty, because a good franchise, even with the royalty, is going to pay that back in droves by the support that they give you and help you and ensure that you are continuing to grow and build. And that really is the basis of so much of it. So now that you've seen all three paths, starting from scratch, buying a business or buying a franchise, it's a lot clearer why so many people land on franchising once they actually look at what the other two paths require. The next video gets into the specific reasons people choose it. And if you want help thinking through which path fits you, definitely reach out to our team here. Send us a message. Go to unitlockfranchising.com. Reach out directly. We would be more than happy to have a conversation with you because at the end of the day, it's a big decision for you to make as a franchisee candidate, as a person who's looking into a business. You need to make the right decision. And sometimes the best decision for you is to hold off right now and to stay in your current job. Do your search right now, but hold off, stay in your current job, and then exit out of it. For some of you, it might be stay in that current job, buy the franchise, wait till that franchise starts cash flowing a little bit more, and then exit. There's a lot of different paths to get into franchising, but understanding what's right for you is critical to making a decision that's healthy for you. And if you have a family, healthy for your family, and putting you in a spot where you can actually feel confident, because that's what you need to feel. You need to feel confident. You want to feel good about the decision you're making. It's not all going to be perfect. It's not all going to be easy. It doesn't matter which path you use. Even if it's a path of lesser resistance, there's still going to be complication. There's still going to be challenges, but doing it the right way and understanding what you're getting yourself into and taking the right steps to set yourself up for success long-term is the most critical thing. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. I hope you have an absolutely amazing day. We will talk with you again very soon in the next video.